All right, guys, there was Exodus beating Transmission Lost, as was predicted, and I was peer pressured into, but in retrospect, it was all right. I got it right. So that seemed like a little bit of a slow match. What happened?
It was Tinker versus Tinker. Those tend to be slow, at least visually. There's a lot going on. They're switching targets, they're trying to get gems, trying to get newts, but a lot of that isn't, you're not seeing health bars actually dropping as much. What you saw there was just a much better Dommy Tinker from Exodus compared to a it's still decent. That one from Transmission Lost would have beaten a lot of teams.
Yeah, I can see what they're going with the Navy Raven, right? It's a decent amount of alpha out of the cruise, decent DPS, and it can also hit anywhere in the arena. So it keeps with this. It's thematically correct, right? But it's just not that good. Like, I think that it could be a lot better if they didn't put all of their eggs in one basket. They could have gotten some E-War in there, and that was something that Exodus did really well. I mean, the E-War that Exodus brought to the table made a big difference.
Yeah, so they had newts, which are really, really key in this kind of mirror matchup. It's how you can slowly break through these teams, because they do need to use cap boosters. They can't generate cap out of thin air anymore. Then you also had the ECM on those cruisers. They're unbonused ECM, but over time they're going to start breaking locks, which is going to slow down their cap transfers and let you get the damage in. I think that's how they killed the Basilisk. Just kept getting gems until eventually it ran out of cap.
It's too bad that the Exodus dummies were so slow, because if they could have gotten over to the Transmission Lost dummies earlier,
This would have been a much faster fight.
yeah, they would have been able to get the new pressure that they wanted on quicker, but it just took so long for them to move across the field. And I mean, something that I brought up that's pretty meta, pretty way down the road, but if it ever did go to tie-dye, there's advantages for both sides, because the shield tank is the reps are going to land at the beginning of the cycle, whereas armor is after the cycle. But at the same time, the reps are more efficient on the armor setup because of reactive armor hardeners. So the resists are going to be higher, and you won't have to rep as much when cap boosters become an issue.
So we explained it in the first segment this morning, but after the break, we might want to just go through it again. Exactly what is a Tinker setup, and what does it do?
So Tinker setups are named after the Dota hero. They generate cap basically by transferring it between the different ships. So what you saw, that yellow pathway between the ships, that's them transferring cap back and forth to each other. It allows them to essentially have one shared cap pool instead of having the individual ones, which allows them to then run reps all the time. So you saw a big ancillary shield booster on that Basilisk for Transmission Lost. They could run all the time, didn't need to use cap booster charges, and then could also rep his team.
Because the Dominixes were sending it cap.
So it was getting cap from them, and then they were running their own cap booster. So each of them had a cap booster individually to give them the cap to then send. And for Exodus, it was the same thing except for the Proteus. They probably had 3 local reps and also had a whole full rack of remote reps. Flying that Proteus for Exodus is like, I don't even know what would be a good analogy for it. It's like riding a skateboard down a cliff face. It's completely edge of your seat. You have to be overheating everything and managing like 10 different active mods all correctly with your cap right on the red line. It takes a really good pilot.
So it's basically 4 wizards sending each other magic.
Yes.
That's the easy way to explain it. But yeah, so, and it's an interesting setup. We've seen it. Did we kind of know what was coming when we saw the bans?
I know. I guess that it would be one Dommy setup, and the other team would have thought that, like Team A would have thought that Team B was trying to bait out Dommy, so they would have brought setup C. I didn't think that we'd see Dommy, but at the same time, it's kind of smart. If you're being baited into Dommy, bring Dommy Tinker to fight Dommy.
Yeah.
But it just turned out there was 2 Dommy Tinkers.
I think, particularly the Transmission Lost ban, the Geddon Balgorn ban says we want our cap intact, which probably means some kind of cap transfer setup.
All right, guys, we do have the next 2 teams coming up here. We'll just get the graphics on the screen, and then we can get some predictions.
Another cool one.
Darkside versus Darkness of Despair.
2 significant Russian groups.
Yes.
Darkside, a whole ton of tournament experience before. They've made it to semifinals a couple times, done very, very well. And Darkness of Despair is pretty new. They reformed from a group of AAA guys and some of the Russian Stainwagon guys, and they're currently cutting a big swath through the Deep South and taking a bunch of space down there.
So Darkside have beaten Hunreload and Shadow Cartel, which is a pretty impressive road
Yes,
here.
that is.
But we have to go into the match now. Fozzie, who do you think's going to win?
I'm going to go with Darkside.
Darkside, because the other team's not tested yet. They haven't really bled themselves.
All right.
Yeah. Dark Side is probably the best.
I think I may go with Dark Side as well. I think they're a terribly good team.